Hello and welcome back to another episode on planet Earth.
We're your host. My name is Joe,
And I'm
and
Joe.
you're my gorgeous, beautiful, slightly crazy, demented daughter, Chloe.
Hello.
How are you, my sun-bronzed child?
I'm good. I am good. I woke up at 5:30 today to start filming for a podcast at 8 a.m. And I'm going to be doing that again next week and the following week, all on location. So it's a lot
Fabulous.
of
Who's that for?
it's a lot of early starts. Thames Estuary Partnership. We did the Royal Greenwich Museum today. Next week it'll be London Museum, and next week it's Zoological Society of London, and then the next day is a film producer that I'm talking to.
About these things that you're doing.
About the River Thames. Yeah, I mean today we spoke about it was World Ocean Day over the weekend. And it's also the Royal Greenwich Museum, they released a ocean map, which is this beautiful, I think it's stillhouse. It's a stillhouse projection. And it's not of the map that we think of when we think of a map. This map puts the ocean as the main focus and land goes around it. And you'll see familiar things in the middle of it. And they released that on World Ocean Day. And it's also the same, this is the week that the 2025 UN Ocean Conference, I think I'm getting those words correct, they're all coming together to talk about the policies to do with the ocean. And
Good.
David Attenborough's film Ocean is in cinemas. So there's lots of ocean related things going on. And this episode really encompassed that. And we used a GoPro 360 camera on this huge ocean map that's on the floor. And it's created this really cool Earth looking ocean focused globe. So check it out on Thames Estuary Partnership socials soon. And my socials at Chloe Presents soon because it's really cool. It's really, really cool.
I was going to ask, how can people see these and hear the podcast and get more information? So it's through Thames Estuary and your private sort of platform.
Yep.
Okay, fabulous. I can't wait.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm running off steam, to be honest with you.
Well, I normally start my day about 5 a.m, so I'm just like, that's a lie-in.
That's crazy. How's your day been?
I've had a really lovely day, actually. I'm getting stuff done. It's been really busy. I've had quite a busy couple of weeks while you've been in Cape Verde. Yeah. So I thought today, feng shui way, we could discuss the importance of your main entrance, the main threshold used by the family or the business as its effect or influence in terms of feng shui. Should we do that?
Okay, let's go into it.
Well, if you think about it, you're looking at the inner world. Your yang feng shui is inner dwellings, whereas yin is more to do with grave placement and ancestors and karmic and spirituality. But for the living, we focus on the yang dwelling. So we have to look at how energy enters that property.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at the energy around us in the landscape, and is it favorable, is it unfavorable, is it very urban, or is it sort of by the ocean? So we sort of measure it that way, but we also have to measure the main portal, the main threshold where energy is coming into the property.
Okay.
And we compare that to the energy we're sensitive to. So it means that some houses may be good for some people, and some houses may be quite challenging, depending on. By the way, I did hear someone cough. So do you want to explain that, just in case someone thinks it's me?
There's a decorator in the house.
In the house.
Yeah, so if you hear any sounds, we're going to try to get them out in post-production, but if you hear any sounds, that is what it is.
Okay. So the main entrance. So you also look at the windows and other entry points, but the main entrance is the one you focus on because that's going to be the main sort of corridor of activity. So the
What about
energy
the back
coming.
door?
Well, if it's used frequently, by absolutely, absolutely. And when you look at the back of the property, it's far more favourable to have it sort of encompassed by the landscape, sort of have either a solid building or a fence or a tree line or ideally a hill, actual
Mm.
land dragon that's at the back of the property to hold that chi in. But the front of the house, you want to be nice and open. If you have a back door and you're using it regularly, perhaps you're parking at the back and you're coming in through that way, then that will become your main threshold. So it's the one that you're using the most and it's the one that's being energized or the one with the most activity that you're going to be stimulating. So there's a couple of things to look out for. One is, first of all, what is the direction looking at the 24 mountains? So you look at the heavenly stems and the earthly branches. Are they compatible with your BaZi chart? Are there any clashes? So I know we've spoken about that before, but that's really important because if there are, then the chances are this is not going to be an easy partnership unless you put cures in place. So you have to look at those clashes and what do they represent? Are you actually having problems sleeping or having problems with unexpected expenses? Maybe relationships are becoming a little bit more tense. So see where that sort of problem lies. And is it to do with the main entrance of your property? Can that be improved? The other thing to go on.
What about if you have a property and a couple lives in it, and for one person in that couple, the door is really good, and the other door is really bad? What would you suggest?
Well, absolutely, that's brilliant. So you'd have to look on really their roles and how that energy's sort of affecting them, and if it is being really dire for the person that isn't aligned with that entrance, then you look for cures, or you look for other entry points and exit points. And again, you have to sort of keep digging to find out if there's exactly how is that energy affecting them and how sensitive that person is to changes, because you could do changes elsewhere in the property to
Mm.
enhance their good luck.
So it's not a one ticket to divorce then.
Oh, no, 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 no. There's always going to be a cure. There's always going to be
Okay.
something you can do.
Mm-hmm.
That's why feng shui is a very fluid or flexible tool. So even though there's lots of schools with lots of rules, some contradicting other schools, that can make it quite confusing. But there's always, that's the reason there's so many schools, because there's somebody else has analysed those stars and found a way to treat that particular type of problem. So that's why
Mm.
you've got things like evergreen, which stay with you based on your year of birth. You've got flying stars based on that exact property.
Mm.
You've got landscape. Or some are really rigid in their sort of limitations or boundaries, but then there's always another school that gives you the answer you're seeking.
Okay.
So yeah, if someone's got a clash, then the chances are they're not going to have such an easy time of it. So you'd look at cures and find out what the clash represents. How is that person really sensitive to that clash, or are they just brushing it off and
Mm.
instead they're turning that sort of negativity into a positive energy? Because again, some challenges can actually be really important and catalysts for change. What first appears to be a difficult situation could actually open up a door into a whole new positive experience. So you've got to look at that as well. I mean, is it an instant problem? Is it a chronic problem? So you've got to really analyze it and, where possible, put in cures so that you tip the balance more into a positive frequency and you minimize the negative energy. But then you've also got to look at the flying stars. So you look at the flying stars that were built into the property, because that's going to affect everyone. So it's this. You could have prosperous stars, which are stimulated by movement, or you could have relationship stars or health stars, which are actually disturbed by movement
Mm.
and can have a big impact on. You could have a star of misfortune at the entrance. that actually presses down on all of the flying stars in the rest of the property because it's the main entrance. That's the star that's been triggered the most and therefore is filtering out and impacting on the others, having a dampening down effect. So you really need to look at the flying stars, and then you look at the landscape from your viewpoint. Have you got an open space? Is it representing the celestial phoenix, which ideally would be a wide open space, perfect for new opportunities for chi to fly in? Or are you facing maybe a brick wall or a narrow corridor with a high fence, which could represent something being very restricted and limited, very ruled by rules and regulations? It doesn't give you any flexibility. So the view from your main entrance is also really important. So there's a couple of things to focus on, but you can also look at the annual stars. So the annual stars that fly into all the 24 mountains, the flying stars, the annual flying stars, will also have a bearing, as well as the flying stars that were built into the property during the time of construction or the time you moved in. So, for example, this year, 2025, the year of the snake, there's going to be a couple of front doors, if you like, that are going to be almost a magnet for success. And just running through them quickly, we've got, for example, the North 2, that's the direction of the rat. If your main entrance is in that sector, which is due north, then you're going to be attracting some very favourable energy. Same goes for the East 2, which is going to be attracting quite a lot of prosperity and alignment for good fortune. East 3 is another really good one, just for positive energy generally and attracting helpful people. And Southwest 3 is another area that, or if your main entrance happens to be in that sector, it's going to be another golden door for attracting good fortune. So just going in and out of the building is going to be stimulating that star, and thereby having a knock-on effect. So this year, you look at not just each sector, but you break each sector into 3. So you've got, say, South 1, South 2, South 3, and within those sectors are stars that could be triggered every time you enter and leave a building. That's why your front door or the door. They're gone. Hi, Mum.
We're recording.
Hi, Mum. Love you. Oh, love you, Mum.
I can update that they have gone.
Well, do you want me to run through a few more, or if you've got any queries or questions, or I can put all of them on the Patreon for all of our lovely family feng shui family members, or I can just run with all more detail, obviously, with a bit more what the stars mean. Or I can run through some more now.
What have you? Is there more favourable directions?
Yeah, the ones I've given you are the best ones. So if your main entrance is in the north, so the rat position, north 2, east 2 is the rabbit direction.
What about if you start naming the more challenging ones, and how can people fix that if they're landing on one of those?
Okay. So the ones that are least favourable, the ones that may struggle a little bit during 2025. So even if they're people with good charts, good BaZi charts, so that's a third of your luck, is your heaven's luck, is your BaZi chart. You could be in good luck, but you could still have a main entrance that this year is being affected by some slightly challenging stars, and that are being triggered every time you enter or leave the building. So if this is the case and you have an alternative threshold to cross and you can avoid triggering this, then I'd recommend it, particularly if your main entrance, so your front door, is in the North 3 sector. And that's the sector that's associated this year, just this year, with financial loss and unexpected expenses, and things can quickly spiral out of control.
Sounds spicy.
Yeah. Northeast 1 is a door that's going to have gradual losses. So your savings are going to erode slowly. So by the end of the year, you're going to feel exhausted. You're going to have a lack of resources, a lack of money, a lack of energy, a lack of enthusiasm. You're going to feel quite flat.
Boo.
Now, yeah, I'll run through all of them, and then I'll go through the cures, and that way you can avoid the associations with these styles. Northeast 2 is a door that this year is going to have lots of obstructions and slow progress. It's where you feel there's blockages. Every step forward, you're having to take a step back, or there's unexpected delays. That's in the Northeast 2. Northeast 3, unfortunately, is the worst door for the year. It's a door of collapse where everything breaks down, plans fall down, break apart, whatever was stable becomes unstable.
Oh
Um,
dear.
Lots of disasters, bad events, things break down, basically crumble. That's Northeast 3. So you'll see that Northeast 1, 2, and 3 are different shades of that annual star of misfortune that's
Mm.
located in the Northeast sector. Now, the Northeast sector is an Earth direction on the Bagua, and the star of misfortune is an Earth star. So, what do you think the cure would be for those people that are unfortunate this year to be
Water?
affected? Not quite, no.
Metal?
Yeah, increasing the metal element in the Northeast sector, whether it's Northeast 1, 2, or 3, will immediately start to deplete that negative
Mm.
energy. It will start to, it'll give you control. And
So can you give some examples of what sort of objects people can put there?
well, anything made of metal, for starters, in terms of size and weight, the heavier, the or
More
more
impact?
robust. Yeah. So
Any
I,
sort of metal?
yeah, but the shape, the metal element symbolically is circular. So I personally use 5 or 6, depending on if I'm using them elsewhere, um, weights, round weights, like the weights that you can screw onto a bar.
Mm.
So weightlifter weights. I've actually got 6, and I put them where that star is, and I sometimes I move them around for the month stars if I've got something really important going on.
What about
And you
crystals? Because they've come out of the
no,
earth.
exactly. So they're going to carry more earth energy. Now,
Okay.
some crystals are very good at absorbing negative chi. So, for example, I'm thinking of the black stones, so onyx and smoky quartz. They're known for absorbing negative chi, but these stones are going to also need to be kind of cleansed and reprogrammed. But they're from the earth energy. So unless you've got a high volume of them, and I don't think it's actually going to be as beneficial as the metal element because earth produces metal. So having the room in a sort of metal feng shui spec, if you like, which is very clean, organized, very tidy, no clutter, very clean, simple lines. Color tones would include white, cream, grey, very sort of zen-like, almost clinical. That would, and round shapes, circular shapes, dome ceilings, curved doorways, all of that carries the metal element, as well as metallic objects. Now, you want to avoid anything that's sharp, so like daggers. Some traditional cures would have a sharp knife or a dagger for cutting chi. So
Mm.
there are exceptions to the rule. But if you're using anything that's like a weapon, because yang metal can also be associated with weaponry and military, it's protection. If you think about suit of armor or um, destructive sort of tools, guns, knives, whatever, they carry a negative association. So you don't really want that stuff lying around your house, even if it's for art purposes. It's going to carry an association of death and misfortune and bloodshed and pain and harm, and it's not something you want to welcome into your space when you're trying to change a negative into a positive. So be savvy, But yeah, any typically metal objects. So you could have metal urns or sculpture, but also technology comes under the metal element. So you could have your phone or computer or router, something along those lines put there. But my personal go-to is something heavy. So I use like 10 kilos per weight. And I purely use that most of the time anyway for feng shui. So sometimes I use it to keep fit. So
Cool.
carrying on. Ease.
Yeah.
So another difficult door this year of the snake is if your house, well, sorry, not your house, your main entrance. This is different to your house facing. This is about your main entrance, the sector your main entrance is located, not necessarily the direction it's facing. Okay. So East 1 is the door of delusion. So this is where you've got sort of people letting you down, breaking promises. You're feeling not necessarily betrayed, but you're feeling you have to making adjustments to your plans because of the impact of other people's decisions or respect even. So East 3 is not great. Another one associated with misunderstandings or a breakdown of trust, where small problems can easily escalate, is Northwest 1. Okay. Now, Northwest 2 is another one which is not so favourable, and that seems, again, to be to do with something that seems established, solid, or even something that feels comfortable, you take for granted, suddenly stops working, suddenly breaks down. It could be relationships, it could be partnerships, just the old regular routine just stops, ceases to exist. And it takes a lot of energy for you to kind of find a solution or an alternative or try and keep things together. So, do you want to run through the cures?
Yeah, so is it not metal can't fix all of them?
No, not at all. So metal definitely fixes. So you have to look at the cycle. You've got two cycles of elements, the 5 elements. You've got the constructive cycle where each element gives support and birth to its neighbouring element, and you've got the destructive cycle of element where each element is able to exhaust the power of its neighbouring element. So we know that Earth, in the constructive cycle of elements, Earth produces metal. So we know that the energy that Earth is exerting will be attracted to supporting that metal element. So increasing the metal element within your feng shui will actually act as an outlet for any earth obstructive chi. So it's a natural, and it's harmonious. It's a natural cycle. It's something that's easily done. Now we could look at the destructive cycle of elements where we know that the wood element can break up and exhaust the strength of the earth energy. But my go-to would be metal all the way. Don't antagonize things. Don't try and be forceful. Always be gentle, harmonious. So my go-to would be metal. Now the first one I read out was North 3. North 3 is in the water. It's a water energy. So the one that's naturally going to absorb that negativity and transform it into a positive energy is the wood element. So I would be looking at fresh flowers or healthy plants. I would, if my entrance is there, I would put maybe some pot plants, some hanging baskets. I'd make sure that the viewpoint I'm looking over is very attractive with maybe beautiful flowers. If there's anything broken or damaged or dirty, or if there's dead plants or anything like that, clear it away quick, sharp. Get that energy as bright and as beautiful as possible. And that's the wood element for North 3. The east one is a wood direction, and so we would have to look at the fire element. So again, I'll keep that area very bright and spacious and well lit, and just keep a light on at the entrance for a minimum of 3 hours per day. For the northwest and northwest 1 and northwest 2, they're metal directions, so water would be the cure. So I would look at perhaps imagery of water, like if I've got any pictures of any seascape or waterscape, perhaps if I'm lucky enough, I could have some something outside. Well, to be honest, water's very yang. I wouldn't really want to put. I was just thinking about a fountain, but actually, I wouldn't recommend a fountain because that would be too stimulating. So I'd probably just go for a symbolic water. So or find a different entrance. Well, certainly avoid metal and earth in that sector. So, and even wood could be a bit challenging. So, fire and water will help control. That's where you're using the destructive cycle of elements, where fire melts metal and reduces its rigidness. But yeah, avoid fountains, I think, when there's a difficult start, because it can be too stimulating, too activating. And I think that's it, my love. I'll put the full list on the Patreon.
Wonderful.
For that, you've got the best and the worst of them.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much. I felt like I was a part of your monologue. I don't really have much to contribute in conversations like this because Mum's the one that knows all about feng shui. So I'm a listener as much as you, listener.
Sorry.
I hope you've enjoyed the episode, and be sure to find us on socials, and we'll see you next time.
Oh, thank you, everyone. And sorry I got a bit bossy there. Took over a bit.
That's all right. Bye-bye for now.
Bye, everyone. Lots of love.